What's poppin', players? Part 4 of the Ballin MCs. Rappers want to be ball players and ball players want to be rappers. Hope you've been liking the last few videos. If so, comment, like, and share. I'm Gold Ray. Let's get to it. Roy Jones Jr. It was no denying his talent as he rose to weight classes, even to heavyweight. Or should we say undeniable talent? Boosie. Next up on the list of the Ballin MCs, Roy Jones Jr., Boosie, undeniable talent. Next up on the list, Simone Biles. We've seen her live a lot of moments for life. Nicki Minaj. Next up on the list of the Ballin MCs, Simone Biles, Nicki Minaj, moment for life. Next up on the list, two pit bulls in the game, Chris Paul, Big Sean, moves. I got the moves. Next up on the list of the Ballin MCs, D Brown. When he won the slam dunk contest, he had a pair of Reeboks on. When he pumped them up, Joe Budden. Next up on the list of the Ballin MCs, D Brown, Joe Budden, pump it up. Next up on the list of the Ballin MCs, Kenny the Jet Smith. From the stories I heard, Kenny been getting it a long time, since high school. Q-Tip. Next up on the list of the Ballin MCs, Kenny the Jet Smith, Q-Tip, getting it. Next up on the list, Spud Webb. When Spud Webb won that dunk contest, everybody was looking like he was the wickedest today. Bow Wow. Next up on the list of the Ballin MCs, Spud Webb, Bow Wow, the wickedest. Next up on the list, Larry Johnson and Stacey Augmon. They were part of a group called the Running Rebels of UNLV. Living legends. Next up on the list of the Ballin MCs, Larry Johnson, 8 Ball, Stacey Augmon, MJG, coming out hard. Pause if that's a pause moment. Next up on the list, Joe Dumars. Joe Dumars did get Finals MVP for the first Detroit Pistons. For the first Detroit Pistons championship. And he's also known for defense as well. I'm gonna give you what you want. MC Breed. Next up on the list of the Ballin MCs, Joe Dumars, MC Breed, I'm gonna give you what you want. Next up on the list, Devin Booker. When he get the ball and scoring you, he look at you like, straight like that. Joyner Lucas. Next up on the list of the Ballin MCs, Devin Booker, Joyner Lucas, straight like that. Next up on the list, Ron Harper. When he came in the league, he was murdering everything. Was being compared on the likes of Michael Jordan. But I'm sure once he joined the Bulls, it felt so good to win some championships. Murder Mace. Next up on the list of the Ballin MCs, Ron Harper, Mace, Feels so good. Next up on the list, Chris Bosh. Chris Bosh had to temper his game down when he went to Miami to play with LeBron and D Wade. But up in Toronto, he was something serious. Big Mike. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Chris Bosh, Big Mike, something serious. Next up on the list, Kenyon Martin. #1 draft pick. Always looked like he want to punch somebody. Lloyd Banks, Punchline King. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Kenyon Martin, Lloyd Banks, I'm so fly. Next up on the list, Damon Stoudemire, Mighty Mouse took no days off. Wale. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Damon Stoudemire, Wale, no days off. Next up on the list, Jaylen Brown. When he get going, his game is smooth like a Cadillac, or should we say, Cadillactica. Out of this world. Big Crit. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Jaylen Brown, Big Crit, Cadillactica. Next up on the list, Dwight Howard. And when he was winning those defensive players of the year, his game was all the way turned up. Roscoe Dash. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Dwight Howard, Roscoe Dash, all the way turned up. Next up on the list, God Sham God. We just gonna say he left us a move, God level, Fred the Godson. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, God Sham God, Fred the Godson, God level. Next up on the list, Steve Nash. And like it or not, he is a 2-time MVP. Bubba Sparks. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Steve Nash, Bubba Sparks, like it or not. Next up on the list, Byron Scott. And when Byron came to the Lakers and looked at Magic and Kareem and Coop, he said, let's ride. Richie Rich. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Byron Scott, Richie Rich, let's ride. Next up on the list, two people that don't get their credit or get mentioned enough. Allen Houston. When in New York, when he was doing this thing, his game was rather unique. AZ. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Allen Houston, AZ, rather unique. Next up on the list, Rebecca Lobo. And where's she at? She in the middle. Moni Love. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Rebecca Lobo, Moni Love, Moni in the middle. Next up on the list, Rayford Alston. Or should we say Skip to My Lou? If he was either in the league or and one, Mike check. Jules Santana. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Rayford Alston, Jules Santana, Mike check. Next up on the list, Jason Tatum. And when he get in his bag, he be doing what he feel like. Ellie Dollar. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Jason Tatum, Ellie Dollar, Feel Like. Next up on the list, Lamar Odom, Nocturnal, The Knock. Next up on the list, Reggie Miller, one of the snipers in the league, 3-point specialist. And when he let him go, we fly high. How did I forget that? We fly high. We not. My fault. We fly high. No lie. You know it. My fault. A little tweeted right now, you know what I'm saying. One of the anthems, though, how could I forget it? Next up on the list, and that was Reggie Miller. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Reggie Miller, Jim Jones, We Fly High. Next up on the list, Jason Williams, White Chocolate. Seemed like he played the game on his own terms. He was always the man that I is. Logic. Yes, Logic, we know you black. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Jason Williams, Logic, Man That I Is. Next up on the list, Anthony Davis. When he got his championship in LA, you deserve it. Future. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Anthony Davis, Future, you deserve it. Next up on the list, T.A. Terry Allen. His defense was always hostile. He would talk to you while he was shutting you down, giving you the gospel. Talib Kweli. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Terry Allen, Talib Kweli, Hostile Gospel. Next up on the list, Jermaine O'Neal. Seemed like he was with you on and off the court. Put his life on the line for you. Mr. Mike. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Jermaine O'Neal, Mr. Mike, Life on the Line. Next up on the list, Rajon Rondo. Always knew what every player should be doing, so he had to know the playbook. Always on the grind. Cassidy. Both look like they might slap you in the face or poke you in the eye. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Rajon Rondo, Cassidy, on the grind. Next up on the list, Amari Stoudemire. In Phoenix, when they was running with Steve Nash and Matrix, we them boys, Wiz Khalifa. That was, so next up, last and final, for part 4 of the Ballin' MCs, Amari Stoudemire, Wiz Khalifa, We Them Boys. Part 4 of the Ballin' MCs. I hope y'all liked it. If so, share it, like it, put a comment. Let me know if you're digging it or not. If you might have changed something up. But just know, if you would change something up, you would have to go find a player and song, or athlete, or artist and song that will match that athlete or artist. You feel me? There we go. Part 4. Ballin' MCs. I'm Gold Ray. Part 5 is coming up. The one that y'all been waiting for, I know. We had to work our way up to it. I'm Gold Ray. Here come part 5. Peace.